folks. Welcome to Patriot Nightcap. I got to say, I'm very honored and I'm thrilled right now to have Dr. Jason Dean. Dr. Jason Dean, I'm going to read a little bit of your bio here. Dr. Dean, speaking professionally for over 15 years. Currently, he is educating audiences about the latest cutting-edge science regarding nutrition, nano-particle detoxification, the full moon parasite protocol, and the clot shot defense. So I guess, we'll just call it the jab because this does go in our wonderful fluff tube. Okay, so thank you, first of all, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. So I represent kind of a toxic-free Patriot crowd over here. We're super excited. We've got the B file, no mRNA. I don't know if you know about what we're doing over here. Okay. But needless to say, a lot of Patriots don't believe in the jab. They're pretty awake. They're Nino's audience. And we are very concerned right now, obviously. So I feel like you and I were raised in the 70s. Is that safe to say?
Born 70s, raised, late 70s, early, mid 80s.
Yeah. Yep. So it was like, go outside, see you later, get on your bike, splash in the puddles, go to the park, stuff like that. And just the other day I looked over at my daughter. I'm like, get off the damn iPad, like grabbed it from her, made her go outside. And it's like, this is what you have to do nowadays. You know what I mean?
There's no way. I tell people all the time, because especially being in practice, you see kids on the iPads, iPhones, et cetera. And I mean, to this point, they're hooked. They're chained to it essentially, and
yeah,
I have a daughter who's 9, and she doesn't have an iPad. She doesn't have a cell phone. She'll occasionally grab mom or dad's or whatever, or she'll watch something on a laptop, because we don't do television.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a hard one, because obviously in our family, it's a very regimented, and there's no video games in the house, anything like that. Not because we're crazy parents, just because we understand what's happening. You're not going to get rid of the technology. That's the thing. So technology is not going anywhere. I work on this thing all day long, but we teach our daughter, mom and dad, both doctors, both running businesses. We're doing this. We're not playing games. We're on social media, but we look at social media a different way. I don't look at it as fun. I look at it as work. I'm looking at things. It's content creation, et cetera. They're not, the gadgets are not going away. They're not, whether we win or lose, which we will win, they're still not going away. This is the future. They're coming. So yeah, it's tough, because you got to go outside. You have to. I'm finding parents have the hardest time because they're not being parents. And I'm very blunt about this, right? I don't know how you do it. I'm like, because you have to be a parent. There's no, you can say no to your child without hurting them. You can say no without, making them go and cry. You just do it in a certain way, and you're not doing that. We'll go outside. Right. And it's funny, because when you finally do it and they go outside, you see your kids light up. They forget about the electronics.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's becoming a real problem, and it's all planned that way.
Let's talk about Pharma Cartel and the world of biometrics. Pharma Cartel. Okay. I agree with you, by the way, 100%. It's also that the iPad can be, it's also just such a seduction. And you're right. It's the ticket to laziness. We just stop being parents because we're like, okay, that will, keep them occupied for 5 hours. Right. So I get it. You have to make a conscious effort. You really do nowadays. Pharma Cartel, because I hear you talk about this, and biometrics. These are the most confusing days ever for anyone to be a parent. When I started taking her to the doctor, and I'm like, whoo, there's 1,000 things you want me to stick in my child. Wow, I don't think so. I do come from the days of, that's what you do. You get vaccinated, so it's like, okay, how do you embrace the 21st century with what we've learned, but not kill ourselves with a bioweapon? So I had my doctor initially tell me, oh, absolutely, you want to get this jab for your daughter, and I'm like, but it's so experimental. I don't think so. And I asked her, I said, well, did you get it for your kids? Of course I did. Oh, okay. But why? Well, we want to travel. Just because you want to travel? I don't think so.
That is their justification for everything. They want to travel.
Yeah, because we want to travel. I'm like, wow. Okay. So that anyway, and then also just looking at how this was really not affecting the kids. And, you know, I said, no, we're not, this is not for me. We're not doing this. So we didn't do it. But how do we guide parents nowadays? What for all the moms out there, all my East Coasters who are like, they don't really, it's not about the Bible. They don't see it that way. It's just, this is science and this is what you do. So
that's great brainwashing. I mean, it really comes down to 100+ years of just like the propaganda being put in people's faces, right? So I'm in front of parents all the time. Obviously, I'm in front of autistic kids all the time in physical practice where I live. And so as a chiropractor, as a functional nutrition physician, I can't speak out and tell somebody what to do with a vaccine. It's not my license that I don't practice medicine, which is fine. I don't want to, right? However, I tell people all the time, I separate myself. I'm a doctor over here without a license to practice medicine. But over here, I'm literally just a human being. I'm a dad. I'm a father. I'm a husband, and I can have whatever opinion I want on them. Now, when you're talking about and people are like, well, I just do it. Of course we're getting but why are you getting it? Because it really comes down to a fundamental lack of information, a lack of knowledge. Remember, every single solitary thing in the world is based on knowledge and information, right? Ultimately, like literally, if you go into like the new agey type world, you know, we're actually in what's called the age of Aquarius now. We just transferred over the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius is called the golden age. It's the golden age of knowledge. Isn't it interesting as we switch into this golden age of knowledge, all this information is coming up to the surface, right? And it's making people, now knowledge is just a thing. You can decide with free will, whichever way you want to go with it. The knowledge can come up that a jab is doing lots and lots of harm and damage, right? However, you can still do it. They're not stopping you from doing it versus, oh, I won't do it. So when I talk to a parent, you know, your body's ability to heal is amazing. If you cut your finger, right? Or if you cut your body, even if it's a horrible cut, you might need emergency care. That's fine. But if you just cut your finger, what does it do? It immediately starts to heal itself. So that's square one. Your body is built with an immune system that you don't have to tell it what to do. It literally starts healing itself like immediately upon injury. Okay, now let's take it away from the physical aspect. Let's go into the body. Okay, let's say a horrible disease comes along. First of all, I don't really buy into horrible diseases necessarily because every single thing we've looked for from a disease standpoint comes from biological weapons. They've been doing this for a long time. COVID is not the first one. This goes way back. I mean, look at smallpox, cowpox, the very first disease, the very first vaccine, as they claim. They took a dead cow, they scraped pus off of it. I'm not joking. And then they put it inside a human's blood. And that was the basis for building a. So when I look at that and I go, okay, would you take a dead cow right now? And well, they're like, oh, it's done in the lab now. It's more careful. No, it's still the same thing. They're taking dead or alive antigens. They're putting it in genetically modified culture with bovine serum, aborted fetal cells, chemicals, metals, et cetera. And then they're shooting it into a body. It's the same thing. It just looks prettier on the outside. So you can go that way. However, if that's the way a parent chooses and I can't stop them from doing it, then here's the question. What the hell is their immune system for then?
Yeah.
Like, why does a child have an immune system?
Yeah.
Right. Why would you do it when you have an immune system? That's the question I typically pose to people after educating them.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. So you don't vaccinate your kids?
No.
Like nothing, 100%. No. Okay.
Never had a needle or a pill pass her skin or her mouth.
Yeah. Okay. One kid?
One. Yep.
Okay. Healthy?
Yeah. Healthiest one.
Okay. So for example, when you hear this story, and this is a true story, girl goes to college, Girl is struck with the meningitis, bacterial meningitis virus. Girl has all her limbs literally taken off of her because of it. Mom comes around, but she survives. And this is a friend of ours. Mom comes around and says, damn, if I'd only known about the meningitis vaccine, I would have given her that. Girl doesn't have limbs anymore. Do you know?
I get it. So you have to go back to the beginning, right? So meningitis is simply you can have viral bacterial meningitis, all right? So a virus is simply an environmental toxin. A virus is not a pathogen. There's no such thing as a virus from a standpoint of isolated viruses. The only way they can isolate a virus is through biological separation in a lab, which is what they do, and then they throw it out to the public, just like we just watched, right? It's an actual environmental toxin. It's a cellular exhaust mechanism. From a bacterial standpoint, sure, there's bacteria. Okay, why did the bacteria get out of control, right? The bacteria shouldn't be out of control.
That's right. My bad. Bacterial meningitis.
Yeah, so bacterial meningitis. Yeah. So what else was going on in the body? The body won't just shut down. There's something else in the body. So in my world, I work with, okay, the body, just like autoimmune, right? The body will not attack itself unless there's a toxin in the system. Now that could be molds, that could be metals, that could, I mean, keep in mind that you had before that, was there a festering of a bacteria? Did it get out of control? And then, you know, you have to take into consideration, like, okay, what was the upbringing like? Was she in college? What was she doing? Like, there's so many factors, but at the end of the day, I mean, bacterial meningitis is not a prominent thing. And yeah, sure, there's a vaccine for it, but there's always a risk reward when you take any type of medication. It's just as simple as that, right? So you can't just be like, okay, well, this is one particular thing that's happened. Okay, there's people all over the world every day that have problems. However, the ones that have the majority of the problems typically have had some sort of toxin in their system. Did they have dental work? I mean, dental work alone will cause bacteria insanity in the body. So it's lots of different things. Obviously, that we could always go with tons more information on what her situation was, what happened. But it's like polio. People are like, oh my God, without the polio, it would have never been. Polio vaccine nothing to do with the eradication of polio. Literally every has come after every disease has been already eradicated. Polio wasn't a virus. Polio was DDT sprayed on people. That's what it was. Why? How does somebody get an iron lung? Literally, the spray, heavy metals and chemicals go into the body and they shut down the nervous system. They shut down the lungs. You can't breathe. I mean, it's already been proven out.
You know, the thing is, we're not going to escape this world, right? So
correct.
The chemtrails, the technology, we're pretty much, you know, in this wave,
right?
This tidal wave. So what are some key things that you recommend? I get it. Maybe your kid doesn't have a phone or an iPad, stuff like that. I know people who homeschool. I just try to navigate these waters as best I can as a parent. I also, you know, you want your kid to be socialized and have their little buddies and their friends. So I did my due diligence. I interviewed the principal. I make sure they're not teaching some wacky, crazy things. And you know, and she has her life and she seems pretty happy. I feel like every parent needs to just decide for themselves and do that due diligence, you know, but is there a specific source that you go to that you, obviously it's not the CDC, but I'm, you know, like, what are some of your, you know, recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, so, and you made a good point. So anybody out there listening, obviously everybody, I try not to, and hey, every once in a while I get a little pissed at the whole situation too. I try not to beat up on parents. It's obviously not the goal. Everyone has their different situation. I mean, for example, I'll be very transparent. My wife and I are both doctors. We have a very successful practice. We have multiple business for entrepreneurs. So at the end of the day, my daughter's homeschooled / unschooled. We have people around that can help her with stuff. She's literally at an office all day with us. She doesn't really come out of our sites for the most part. So we have an ideal situation because we have the resources. We built the resources to actually do that. I know not everybody's in that situation. So when it comes to the decisions people make, they have to make the best decisions for themselves. However, my situation from other situations doesn't change when it comes to how the body works. The body still works. My daughter's body works just like the body worked, you know, another kid going to school. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to school, this is where that knowledge thing comes in again. So you asked me like, how do I make our decisions? How do we find information? First of all, you can't see the library that's like ahead of me behind the camera, right? So libraries of books on natural healing, medicine, pediatrics, ancient medicine. Like I'm talking, I have books on the shelf that have information them from hundreds of years ago, potentially thousands of years ago, of how the body works, the geniuses of healthcare before medicine, that they were calling out what medicine was doing. So we're constantly in that. I have access to like whole food, physician grade supplementation. We have blood test. Like we have a lot of different stuff that we can go after. So just because I live a certain way and my daughter lives a certain way doesn't mean we don't monitor stuff. We don't check stuff. We just do it in a different way from a holistic standpoint versus an actual, like what medicine is doing. And most parents, again, I don't love going back to this, but I have to go back to this because this is the only answer. We live in a world right now where even parents have backed away from information. And when I say that, I mean, for 3 years, they've been promoting propaganda on television, telling everybody, one, that there's this horrible, horrible, horrible disease out there. And then number two, the only way to fix it is to plunge a needle into your arm with like 5 shots, right? Now, we say that, or they say that, yet we have an entire holistic community that did none of that, never got anything, did great. We have people who aren't in the holistic community who did great. So it comes down to information and knowledge, right? So, for example, there's a website out there for lots of parents. If anybody has, it's not my website. It's called nvic.org, I believe. N is in Nancy, V is in Victor, I, C is in cat.org. So for parents out there who are not in a situation like me, this is where you need to go, because one, there's no mandatory anything going to any school, right? There's no mandatory anything going to any sport or club, but they're going to tell you there is. So where's that? Now what do you have to do? Now you have to do your due diligence. You have to study. You have to read. You have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. How many people took jabs without ever even asking for the insert when the insert was blank, right? So when people tell me, well, it's hard for people out there, it's not hard. It's actually not hard at all, because we do it every day. I don't watch Netflix at night. We don't watch a bunch of TV and movies at night. We're studying, we're reading, right? You're gaining as much knowledge as you possibly can. When everything hit and the mask mandates came out, now, I live in a pretty red county in Florida. However, my wife and I were up because obviously we're business owners too. We have employees we have to think about. And our employees were on board with us. We're not doing masks. We're not doing any of this stuff. However, my wife sits up exhaustively for, 3 hours at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, downloading every single mandate for the state of Florida, every single mandate for our county, every single mandate for our city, and exhaustingly reads through that to find out the loopholes.
Right.
So I'm sure someone like you, because you seem very, very intelligent, when something happens, you start looking, you start researching, right? You start going, okay, one, what do we actually have to do here? Two, maybe is there a way around it? What could we, you look for anything. You're looking at the viewpoints from around the whole thing.
I do. I pick up the phone and I really talk.
Right, make phone calls. I'm texting friends. Hey, what are you seeing over here? But the problem is, and again, I'm not beating up on the public. Public's not doing hardly any of that. You know what they're doing? They're taking authority's word for it. The television says to do something, they do it. Someone local says they do something, they do it. How tragic is it if someone from a local school, maybe a nurse or just somebody at a front desk, says, I'm sorry, your kid can't come in without a vaccine. That parent goes and gets that, and then you have a vaccine injury. And guess what? You can't take information from someone who just randomly told you something and take them as authority. You're the authority in your life. You have to do that research, because that person is just giving you the viewpoint that they have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. Absolutely. Do you think that there were, I know you said on one of your shows, you call yourself a conspiracy theorist. I don't know, but whatever that means. But do you think that there were different batches? Because I'm always fascinated. There's people with injuries. There's people who have dropped dead. There's people who are just fine. It's like, it's interesting to me.
There's always, I mean, there's always different batches and different lots. Now, is there different batches and lots because there's a conspiracy to like try to like, you know, whether it was hold it back a little bit or purge more people, whatever it may. I don't know that. I can't give you official notice on that. Obviously, I think there's some sites out there. I don't know what they are because I don't look them up necessarily. That there's different lots that you can go check. Okay, what did this have in? What was this potentially in it? Who died? You know, if there was more in one lot that died than others. There's always different lots because that's how they create in all pharmaceutical products. But did they, you know, is there a grand conspiracy to have done this to like, you know, just push it out there? I don't know from a standpoint of if they're placebo. There's always placebos. Mm-hmm. However, I don't know to the extent of what that was. So at the end of the day, I mean, I'm telling everybody right now, within that protein, mm-hmm. there are a couple other things as well. You have not seen the end of this, right? There is HIV. There is Marburg virus. And this thing has my understanding, just based on reading the research, this thing has what's called a latency, meaning it has not opened up all of it yet. So as we go forward, and this is conspiracy fact, right? And when we say conspiracy, I can play and have fun in the story world, right? But at the end of the day, I go get documentation to back up what we're talking about. Because keep in mind, they put everything out there. It's just you got to go find it, and some of it's behind the scenes. But we always find everything connected with the conspiracy and the actual real data. But this is going to release within people. You will have most likely, I can't guarantee it because the body is pretty damn adaptable. It's kind of shocking. You'll probably have a pretty massive population reduction over the next couple of years going into 2025. I mean, many have said, America could go down to 100 million from 320 million. One of the reasons why, because you have stuff inside of that protein that are going to release that will rain havoc on the human body. You haven't even seen the beginning of that yet, right? I mean, CDC, I don't know if it's still out there, if they pulled it, because I haven't looked recently, but they had the zombie apocalypse and people thought it was funny and a joke and ha, ha, ha. Like, oh, this is crazy. The CDC has like a zombie PDF out there. They're talking about, they did it for a reason because it's real. That's what the Marburg virus is. The Marburg virus literally will come out of the spike, right? And it will make people bleed from their orifices. It actually it shuts the frontal brain off, the motor part of your brain, and people turn into not like the Walking Dead zombies, but they're going to shut them off. And when that happens, I don't want to do fear porn on this, but we will probably at some point get a little bit, or at least a taste. I think it's going to come from inner cities, but that's just me. I don't think it'll be suburbia, rural world. You might get a bit of societal collapse in certain areas, because when this starts happening, it'll get a little scary for people in areas, because people are already driving like crazy. We can literally see every day on the road here. I also live in a busy area. You can see how people's driving abilities, how their thought processes, how their brain function is actually declining since they've got this. I mean, we can actually see it. Plus, we're in practice. We see people actually going on a slow decline who got that. It's happening. This was a well orchestrated depopulation agenda move. Mm-hmm. And that's 100% fact.
Factual from what source?
Factual from what source? They've been working on this for a long time. I have DOD reports that show this. They've been experimenting on the public forever. I mean, that's what they do. That Tuskegee experiment they did. They're experimenting on
what is DOD
Tuskegee experiment? They're experimenting on blacks in the inner city. I mean, they literally see what they can do. I mean, at the end of the day, you have a bunch of really big psychopaths at the top of the chain. Yeah. Who don't want humanity around, right? And so ultimately, what they're doing is they're going for depopulation. That's a new world order. That's always been in their creed. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm not a stranger to any of this information, but it's just fascinating to me because I have a few friends on the East Coast that I try to strike up these conversations with them, and it's just like, what are you talking about? What?
Yeah, here's another disclaimer for me, because I know a lot of people are listening to me. Obviously, I probably come from a very different angle. I have built my world. My wife and I have built our world along with our colleagues. I live on an island, not literally, right? Well, kind of peninsula. I live in Florida, but I live on an island, right? We live on an island. I can say the things I want to because I was willing and am willing to burn down all bridges from a standpoint of knowledge base, not because I don't like people or I'm not willing to talk to people. I talk to people all the time. I'm in public all the time, etc. However, from a, oh my God, what is he talking about? That's crazy stuff. I don't care at the end of the day if I sound crazy. I know it's true based on both analytical research, but also intuitively. I can tell, I know it's coming between studying it and just knowing. You can see what's happening. I've been watching people be destroyed by the system in actual real healthcare. Between my wife and I, almost 20 years. We see it every single day. I see the autism skyrocketing. I see the cancer skyrocketing. We see it all skyrocketing. And keep in mind, we have brilliance in healthcare. If you have brilliance in healthcare, disease should not be skyrocketing off the planet. Like, it's just skyrocketing, right? And autism should not be less than 1 in 10 if you're have a brilliant system. We don't have a brilliant system. They have a depopulation system. It's been like that for a long time. But I live on an island, meaning we have built our world. I'm with my family and I have my colleagues, I have my friends who are all, we think all the same way. I don't have to battle my household. I don't have to battle my friends.
Yeah,
literally,
right. Like, I understand what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally do. I mean, certainly I spoke to a lot of people, nurse friends of mine, doctors, I mean, so many of them, and just absolutely running to get in line. Couldn't get in line fast enough, you know, and I mean, look, I always stood for medical freedom, freedom of speech and medical freedom. And I never understood, it was just crazy to me how everything was just shutting down. And just the fact that we use the word, you said a few times, it was probably, I'll probably get a strike.
Sorry, you know? But go in and edit it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about it without saying the words.
And I just said it again. And you know, the thing is too, is that there are so many really smart and good people out there who can't wrap their minds around the psychopath idea.
Oh no, they can't. I know people that, I mean, they're not personal close friends of mine, but I know people from a distance who are smart people from a standpoint of academically smart. However, there's also a life smarts, right? Like, I don't trust anything the government says. I don't care if Donald Trump is put back in office tomorrow and we go back to the greatest republic on the face of the planet. I innately don't trust government and authority. I will follow the rules if I know that they're doing the right things, but I don't trust them from a standpoint, I'm going to do everything they tell you. If you have something that's unjust, it's unjust. However, I have people who are book smart, right? And they do very well in life. They're well taken care of because of their intelligence. They jumped right in line for it.
Yeah. So what's the advice that do some of them come back and say, oh my God, you know, Jason, Dr.
Oh yeah,
I so regret this. How do I detox?
Yeah, I mean, we tell them the best you can from a detox standpoint, at least start to detox. I mean, I tell them right up front, I mean, hey, this changes DNA. I can't guarantee anything because we probably have the technology somewhere, but it's not open to the public right now on how you actually flip DNA back over to what it should be. But 100%, you have to start detoxing. And that's still not a guarantee that anything like good is going to happen. But absolutely, I have people who work in the NFL who are friends of mine who came right to me and they told me when they got it, what happened, exactly what occurred. And oh my God, I would never do it again. But now we got to face whatever's going to happen and they're working on it. But yeah, what
were some of their symptoms?
Lots of jaw pain, lots of ear pain. It's literally neurological symptoms, as in the neurological breakdown of certain areas. They actually went after the nerves.
How do you tell them to detox? Pine needle tea?
We have products, but at the end of the day, I mean, you got to eat really clean. You have to do I do a lot of things with binders, like carbon technology, not like graphene oxide, but carbon technology that goes in and binds onto toxins like metals and pulls them out. But again, I tell people, that's what we have right now. Doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. Because again, they threw something at us that none of us have ever seen before. And on top of that, the ingredients that are thrown in that, and now they're nanotechnologies that they're going after. We are working our fastest to like keep up with what they've been working on for several decades. We just didn't know they were going to launch this. I mean, I knew they would launch a depopulation agenda. I knew they were going for the chipping of the body. I knew they were going for central bank digital currency. I knew that 10, 20 years ago. I thought they were going to do it more overtly. I did not think they were going to go this route where they just kind of snuck it in.
Right. I mean, they're pretty overt about it. I mean, like
it is for us. Not everybody is what I mean.
Oh my gosh, Panera, like get the chip and you can buy your food faster.
I know, Amazon, like, I travel, I'm flying all the time, and they have like now the Amazon thing in like Orlando airport. I'm like, oh my God, like it's weird because I love technology. I mean, I'm a technology junkie, right? It's a matter of who's in control of the technology. What are we using it for, right? Like, I never want to say, now, obviously, I'm not talking about chipping myself, right? But biometrics are actually pretty amazing, and they're very protective of your information if they're being used correctly, right? That's the big if. And because people will tell me, no, all this is terrible, it's evil. No, it's not evil. Like a phone is not by itself evil. It's a neutral object. It's like money is not evil. It's what you do with the money. If you have somebody who's a jerk and they do bad things with it and they traffic kids, it's evil. But if they're out there giving it to trafficked organizations like Operation Underground Railroad and actually helping people, then it's being put to good use. So you can't, nanotechnology is not a bad thing. It's how it's used, right?
Right. Of course. Of course. You know, it's someone who I considered very smart said the other day, wow, I'm just really shocked. The science got it wrong. If you get the jab, it's supposed to lessen the severity. But we learned that, even if you get the jab, you can still catch it. And even, I was like shocked to hear this person say that.
You want to know? So you want to know how they miss out on science? Ready? Here, let's go back to the basics of science. I'm talking like day one. This is what science is. Science is simply observation.
Yeah.
So when I say that, I mean, like if my daughter and I do a science experiment, you come up with the theory of putting, a couple things together and seeing what it does, or building something and see what it does. So you make the experiment, you run the experiment, and then you see if your theory was correct or not. You observe, look with your eyes, what is happening? Oh, wait, it broke. It didn't work. Okay, crap. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's try it another way, or we scrap it. One of the two, right? We can try it and try it and try it, or we have to scrap it. It maybe just wasn't a good theory, right? Versus if it works, you're like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. Let's fine tune it to make sure it really, really works before we expose it to the public. That's science. It's observation. Did it work? Did it not work? You're not watching science right now, because guess what? No jab has worked. When you go and look at the death count, at least even all the way back to the very first one, that's not how science works. Science is, oh, wait, shoot, we killed all the animals in the study. I guess we should go back to the drawing board and try to find out how not to kill all the animals in the study. Or we should probably go find out why autism is 1 in 10, and there's only a couple different things that actually cause it, like, poisoning of our food system and jabs, etc. Science would say to any rational person, we have a problem on our hands. Like, there's something going on. The disease is skyrocketing. We have people who are injured. Let's go back to the drawing board. So you're not watching science. No. You're watching a religion. You're watching propaganda. You're watching an authoritative, tyrannical organizations put control over people.
Well, I can definitely, I don't know how anybody can deny the fact that, especially if you were raised in the 70s and 80s, I don't remember peanut allergies. I never heard. No. I was like, no, I go to school. There were tables set up for children who have to sit here for their peanut allergy.
We have peanut butter in our house, right? My daughter and I love peanut butter. They're like, why would you feed your daughter peanut butter? I'm like, because she doesn't have anything else in her and she can eat it and she doesn't have a reaction to it.
Yeah. So clearly we're not getting something right here. Clearly.
Right, exactly.
Because now it's like it's exploded. There's just
absolutely
everywhere. And, it's just, you've got to be able to notice that, So Dr. Jason, where do we find you? I see that the Brave TV on Rumble. Tell me where we find you in your books. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, you go to bravetv.com. It's a basic site. All the social media is there. So Rumble, Truth Social. I've been banned on YouTube and banned on Twitter and Facebook. So you can find me there, but they're not as open, right? Those are the big ones. You can find me there. bravetv.store, which you can also find through bravetv.com, is a store where there's protocols, etc. But also, I do a podcast, so 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern time. It goes up on Rumble every single time. So Rumble is like the big platform because everyone else was banned. And it's health, freedom, and knowledge. I mean, at the end of the day, it's my island, right? So I tell people all the time, it's my island. So when you go to the show, you're going to hear me completely unfiltered because I can say whatever I want to say, and I don't hold myself back. And so we have people that come in. Most everyone is like 100% on board, but then some people are like, well, I don't know if I agree here, but I understand what you're saying. So it's really just my way of, one, I can educate on natural health and what actually health is, freedom wise, but then knowledge is the big piece. Like I want people to start studying and start learning and start researching. Like I'm not saying you can't be entertained every once in a while, but we turned into an America where everyone's got to be entertained 6 hours a night on television. What if you took that 6 hours a night? What if you just took half of it, the 3 hours a night? And you just started researching the things in your life, in your kids' life, et cetera. Went outside and played with them, went and had dinner at the dinner table instead of like, on the couch watching TV. You would change your whole country within under a year. I mean, it's not hard to do, but it requires people confronting information. And sometimes you have to realize you made a mistake. And I have found out people are really, really cautious when they know they made a mistake. They put themselves down instead of just going, you know what, I screwed up, let's move on.
Yeah. New day, new clean.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, even I have people who have vaccine injuries. Their parents come to me, oh my gosh, I'm so bad. I'm like, you're not bad. You made a decision based on the information you had. Okay, now you have a problem. So let's turn a leaf over. I'm here to help you. Other people are here to help you. If you keep doing it, I'm not going to follow you. I don't allow people to keep doing something stupid and then keep going with them. But if they're willing to like look, and then, most of these moms who realize something happened or there's a problem, or even now people with the jab, once you start guiding them in the right way, they take over for themselves. I don't have to guide them anymore. They start becoming leaders in their own community because they see it. Once you dive down the road of knowledge, you never come back, because once you start learning truths of this world, like it's an awakening process, right? Versus ones who just kind of keep doing the stupid thing over and over again. There's ignorance and there's stupidity. Ignorance can be remedied. That just means you didn't know. But if you know and you're educated on it and you keep doing it, now you're an actual stupid person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what's key for parents out there.
Yeah. Do you have actual detox products that you sell, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we detox. So I go after the toxins. So I go after the parasites because they rain terror on the body. We go after detoxification of the entire body as well. So we're also going after detoxification of all the new toxins coming out. We have also gut protocols to get the gut, because if you don't get the gut fixed, and because the gut connects directly to the brain, connects directly to the adrenals, you got to fix all that stuff. Most of the world right now is leaky gut. And that's one of the reasons why we're struggling so much, because people just their brains aren't functioning, because that brain is based on that gut.
Well, you know what? We should talk about our beef over here. I don't know if someone's had a chance to talk to you about that, but no hormones, no antibiotics, no mRNA, our cattle. Maybe
nice.
We can talk about that. You hang on, and everybody, thank you so much for joining in. Check out Dr. Jason Dean, please. Go to Brave TV on Rumble. And do you have a book also that you want to tell me about, Dr.?
Books are coming out.
The books are coming out.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome getting to know you. Everybody have a great night. Thank you.